take your website, copy the URL for it, put it in the chat and say, I'm starting a campaign for social media content and I need 50, 100, 200, 1,000 topics that I can do video content on in relation to what I do. Hit enter. Then you can go even deeper and then you can say, I need hooks for each of those videos. I need scripts for each of those videos. I need bullet points, outlines, whatever it is you want, and it'll help that. So what it's doing is it's going to scrape your website. If you even want to get more strategic, John, you take competitors' websites and put them in there.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, and put them in there, and then you can open up a whole nother world because then it's scraping all that data and giving you basically the keys to like a social media marketing machine. And then all you got to do is turn the camera on and record, and that's it.
Hey, welcome back to the Pete Podcast. I'm your host, John Nolan, and we're kicking off a brand new chapter of this show, okay? Our mission is simple. We're moving past the fluff and diving deep into the operational excellence that actually makes and scales a real estate business. Today, I'm joined by a man who has mastered the art of omnipresence, Josh Culler. Oh, damn. I messed that up.
That's all right. You can restart if you want. If you mess up, just jump right back in. Just
okay. I was going to say, don't
just acknowledge it. Just be like, oh, I actually know this. Yeah.
Cool. Josh Culler doesn't just make videos. He builds content engines that turn raw footage into consistent lead flow. Josh, we see investors grinding on the phone all day, but they're invisible online. I wanted to talk about the infrastructure behind a brand that actually pays for itself. Josh, welcome to the show.
John, it's awesome to be here. We've been managing the podcast now for some time, and I am honored to be a guest on the show. Obviously, you and I worked together for quite some time and have known each other for a long time, so I'm glad to be here.
Yep, I appreciate it. I appreciate you jumping on. If you don't mind, I'm just going to jump straight into some questions, and we'll kind of see where the conversation goes from there.
Yeah,
first, why would you say 85, 90% of our real estate investors are invisible even when they're doing deals, and what's costing them money and brand equity?
So it's funny. I actually had a conversation with a guy that so because he's so brand new, he's experienced a lot of really great success, but because he's so brand new, he hasn't even had a chance to establish any sort of brand online presence or anything in the marketplace. But he's out in Memphis, and he started in September of 24, and just last year did 200 wholesale deals, which is with two people. So it was him and one other guy. And I met him in a mastermind. And like, depending on who you talk to, they'll say like, oh, you just own a job and that sort of thing. But he's like, I just started, like, I got to get somewhere. So I had a conversation with him earlier today, specifically about this. And, he just hasn't had time. He's been doing deals. Like, he's just, I think
he's been
getting that first, they were doing, dialing. So they're just cold calling for a while. That's how they kind of got, deals through the door for the first 6 months or so. And then he switched to kind of turn that off because that was getting monotonous. So then he switched to PPC and a little bit of SEO, and then now running TV ads. So here's the thing: is it starts with I call it a North Star. So what it starts with is what your objective is for that brand, because not everybody that's listening is a wholesaler. Not everybody that's listening is a fix and flipper. So your demographic is going to be completely different depending on who you're marketing to. So if you're fix and flipping, you might be doing marketing to motivated seller leads, but you also are doing traffic to retail buyers, right? Or if you're flipping and you're selling to investors that want rentals, it really depends on who your demographic is. And I think everybody, John, this saying, in marketing, if everybody's your demographic, nobody is. It really is true. And nowadays we're in such a world where niche marketing is ultimately what wins at the end of the day, unless you're pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into your brand like these large corporations are, where you literally are marketing to everybody. But even then, like, they still have demographics that they specifically target and go after, where most investors that are probably listening to the podcast, they scratch their head at $50K a month that they're spending in marketing. So it really depends on getting very specific on who your demographic is. I think that's where it starts. And then you start to build out the marketing from there. So whether you're doing, like you specifically mentioned, that I'm in the organic content space. Whether you're like, I this guy that I talked to, I told him, I was like, I don't think you need 2 posts a day or 3 posts a day going on your personal socials right now. That's not where you're at right now. You need to build a
Mhm.
long term brand and establish that first. So then I recommend you building out. If you're going to do video content, I would recommend you building out like kind of like Q&A type stuff or FAQs
Okay.
where it's specific. Content marketing, the definition of it is just answering questions that your target demographic has about who you are, what you do, and the space and industry that you're in. And
And I
that's
think,
where it starts.
gotcha. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
There you
I
go.
was gonna say, and something that you hit on that I've heard a bunch and I understand completely, but a lot of people don't, is identifying, as you said, your North Star, but what that is. And sometimes people will end up creating another brand. Like I know I have some
Yep.
customers who are wholesalers who have a house buying brand and they do content for the house buying to generate leads, but then they wholesale. So they have a different entity that runs that and they have completely different content on those.
Yeah.
That way they can tailor
Yeah.
to each.
Yeah. That's definitely the way to do it. And you'll see these guys out there. You and I both know, the real estate investors that post on their personal profiles, and it's a little bit of everything. You'll see they'll it's not even just business content. They'll post content about them, going on a date with their wife, or they're playing with their kids, or they're at a sporting event or whatever. That's a completely different conversation because the difference between building a brand and building a personal brand, it's not even in the same conversation at all because
Right.
as a brand, you're marketing to a very specific demographic that is basically like who you servicing, who's the purchaser of the product or the service that you have. A personal brand, you can build that as a platform and leverage that to drive people back to anything that you do. If you own a donut shop, if you you sell houses, you buy houses, you fix and
Mhm.
flip, you have a remodeling service, whatever it is, you can leverage the personal brand to drive people back to that because it's a little bit more broad. It's more personal, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that kind of makes me laugh is sometimes I'll see somebody on Facebook or Instagram who some of their content is obviously trying to get leads,
Yeah.
so people who need to sell their house, and then the next one will be about how they got a 50K assignment fee for another house. I'm like,
I use that example all
those
the
aren't going
time.
to go well.
It's crazy. It's so what's funny about that is so I've actually had people get in trouble with that before. Like they weren't a client on loan, but I knew that they got in trouble. Like I saw a comment. Um, It was I'm not gonna say who it was, obviously, but one guy, he's a well-known coach in the space, posted on his house buying brands, and somehow it ended up in my algorithm, but his house buying brand's Facebook page, I don't know if they mixed up the post or the person that was posting accidentally put it there, but it was a video of him standing in front of a house with a check that said 60, I think it was like $65,000 or something like that. And somebody on the comments said, I just sold you this house last week and you made that much money on it. Call me right now. Like it's
Ouch.
like that kind of thing. So, and obviously, like you can't avoid that altogether. Like if somebody really, really, if that seller really wanted to go find that person, they could. But
Right.
at the same time, if you're deviating your marketing to the directives and the platforms that you're putting it on, and you're being
Yeah.
specific, chances are that person's not going to find you. And it seems kind of sleazy to even talk about, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you have a coaching program, you obviously need to show proof. There's that
Right.
credibility piece, right? Maybe not flashing a $65,000 check is the best way to do it, but there's more ethical ways to do it. But then also on the other side, as your house buying business, you have to be able to convey a message that, hey, we buy houses and we also sell them. So we are going to make money,
Right.
It's
Yeah, you don't want to hide it, but you don't need to
no, you
just
don't need to
yeah.
flash it everywhere.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. You
Great.
don't need to flash it. Um, well, shifting gears a little bit, I have a question for you. Talking about content marketing, some people that are listening to the podcast or watch the podcast may not know what content marketing is. You briefly described it, but
Mhm.
can you kind of go a little bit deeper? Like, is that just posting text? Is it videos, pictures, or combo, or what?
It's a little bit of everything. So depending the way that you'll frame this is it really depends on I'm glad we started with demographics, honestly, because that's really where it starts with.
Hmm.
I always say, like in business, I don't care if you're a marketing director, I don't care if you have a marketing itch or anything. Like If you are a owner of a business, you should know your demographic better than they know themselves. You should know their tendencies, where they hang out
Mhm.
physically, where they hang out digitally, what type of content they consume. It's very important for you to understand the behaviors of that person because that's how you are going to market and sell to them.
Right.
So that's where we start. In regards to content, um, again, I already said it, but the definition of content is just answering questions. That's really all it is. Let's think about um, let's think about a house buyer, right? So one of the most common questions you might get is, what do you mean when you say you can offer cash for my house, right? Like ideally, the seller probably knows like you're not bringing a bag of cash to buy my
You would
house. You're not
you would
giving me
think at least.
the clothes, right? Exactly, but, like, it's hard not to ask that question, right?
Right.
So, you might put a video out in already that says that, maybe the title is "What it means to get a cash offer on your house." So, then seller will come to that video, see it, and say like, "Oh, that answers my question." Now you give a call to action at the end of the video that says, "If you are interested in working with us and having this kind of, service to buy your house, then give us a call, visit our website, whatever." Seller calls and says, "Hey, I watched your video. That answered my question. I just want to talk about the process a little bit more." You've now broken a barrier down that it's no longer a cold call, even if they're calling you in.
Right.
It's not a cold call because they've already got something from you, and that was a
And
little
they
bit of value.
and they feel a little bit of a connection with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've delivered value
Mhm.
already without picking up the phone because you explained to them what a cash offer is. So that's really all it is. It's just and then the medium in which you put it out. So whether it is video, whether it is podcast, whether it is TV ads, um,
Mhm.
graphic images, content posts, whatever it is, it all depends on your demographic. What do they consume? So a house, I use this example all the time because maybe not so much anymore, but maybe like 4 or 5 years ago when everybody was launching podcasts and everybody was doing social media, there was a guy that I was talking to, and I found out that he was publishing a podcast and it was going to his house buying business, Facebook page and website. And I was like, dude, like you can't do that. First of all, for the already reasons that we talked about. But at the same time, you got to be thinking like, is a motivated seller interested in coming to your weekly podcast to listen to how you're doing in business? Like they're not.
Right.
Regardless of the fact that we want referrals in our business, um, it's transactional. So that you're going to deliver value, you're going to buy their house, you're probably never going to hear from them again, no matter how much you follow up on. So they're not going to come back repetitively to your podcast. So that's the best way to explain it is if you're marketing to a motivated seller lead, then podcast is not the way to do it. Now, on the flip side, if you're trying to get deals, and there's a couple people we work with that do this, if you're trying to get deals from, say, realtors or other wholesalers in your market, podcast might be the way to go because then you can basically teach and train those people how to bring you the right deals in your market and you get specific with that. So that's kind of the thought process there.
Nice. So, and I had a few questions and then I completely forgot them. I love it when that happens. But so if
You need a
somebody,
cue. Like,
yeah, I need a cue. I just got to keep that cue in my head.
yeah.
Um, so the people that watch this podcast are kind of fall into generally three different buckets. We have coaches slash mentors who have been doing the business and now they're helping other people. We have people who are wholesaling or flipping and have been for a while, or people who are getting brand new into the industry.
Mm.
All of them can fall into the same bucket of I've never done it, or I've kind of posted here and there. I think I should do content marketing. I think I should start recording videos for that purpose, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to do it. What would be your advice on something like that? How they would kind of go through that path?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing you need to know is your demographic. So we've already talked about this, right? Okay, so another great example, because this question will come up in that line of thinking at some point, is not how do I do it, but how much do I do as well? So do I need to put out like, these people are putting out 3 videos a day on their Instagram and Facebook and posting 4 to 5 core YouTube videos on a weekly basis. Like, I don't know if I can keep up with that. Number one
Mhm.
is obviously you need to know your own capacity. So if you are running a full-time business, you can't just like put that off to the side and become a full-time content creator. You and I both know people that have done that and their business suffered. They thought they heard from everybody, you got to start a podcast, you got to be posting 5 times a day, you got to be doing like this, that, and the other. And then they let their business slide just because they wanted to create content, right? You can't do that. So you need to know your capacity from time perspective, but then also like, okay, well, who's going to help you? Are you going to have a service provider help you publish the content? Somebody that's in your office that's going to help you record? That's also, or are you going to do everything? You can by all means, but we need to know what that looks like. So think about that. As for like getting it going, after you establish what makes sense for you, then maybe later on you can start to ramp it up and say, like, if my demographic does consume multiple videos on a daily basis, okay, ramp it up. But first, if you can't keep up with what you're going to do now, you're not going to keep up with the larger volume later. So know
That's
that.
where shiny object comes in,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
But it's also consistency because if
Mhm.
you, well, I see this all the time, John, is people start with like 3 videos a day that they put out on social media. And then all of a sudden, 3 minutes in, you don't hear from them ever again. And it's like, well, you just overwhelmed yourself. You should have been putting out like 3 videos a week first and then built on top of that.
I mean, the same goes for somebody who's trying to lose weight and they go on a
Right.
crazy
Hmm.
challenge or whatever the case is, and they go hard on it for a short time, and then they burn out. I mean, that you have to do
Yep.
things gradually for most of the time.
And
So
well, hold on.
go ahead.
Let me capitalize on that. The thing that gets people too, and you know this because you've done it for so long, is just remember that just because you put out a few posts doesn't mean that leads are just going to be begging, knock down your door. It's not how this
Very
works.
true.
It's brand building is essentially what it is. So it takes a commitment. Like talk to anybody that's in our industry that has done a podcast or social media or anything or anything at all, even in business marketing. Like if you're doing SEO or PPC, it takes time to develop that. It's not. This isn't advertising. Advertising, you could turn a Facebook ad on right now and get, if you've done it right, you can get leads immediately. But that's not necessarily brand building either. You're just advertising, like it's sales. That's all it is. If you're brand building, you're putting out organic content, it takes time to develop it and it's a commitment, it's consistency, which John, we know like most people don't want to
That's
stay
huge.
consistent with it for a long period
No,
of time. So
no. And I could go down the rabbit hole on this. Yeah, I started thinking about when you said the Facebook ads and the versus the brand, and I was like, what's awesome was when you get the combination of those,
mhm,
and you have a good brand and you have marketing and advertising, and people a lot of times try to chase the cheap leads.
mhm.
In our home buying business and even in Pete, I don't want the cheap leads. I want the good leads. And if it costs more for a good lead and it's less work for me, less work for my team, and we get a better customer, that's where I want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because then when you're in the sales process, they're an easier sale. And I'm going to spend as much time with them. They're going to usually they stick around longer, especially for a service based business. You know, like the people that stick around the longest with me are always referrals that already know a lot about me. Um,
Yep.
even if they've like met me from somebody else or they've seen some of my content. The last thing I'll add to getting started, a lot of people get tripped up on what do I even put out? That would be the
Hmm.
next. So like, how to start, how much do I start with, and then now what do I do? Easiest thing in the world. I'm going to show you guys a trick, and this has worked for a long time, but now with the help of AI, it's even more powerful. So whatever your choice of AI platform is, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever it is, open that up, take your website, copy the URL for it, put it in the chat and say, I'm starting a campaign for social media content and I need 50, 100, 200, 1,000 topics that I can do video content on in relation to what I do. Hit enter. Then you can go even deeper and then you can say, I need hooks for each of those videos. I need scripts for each of those videos. I need bullet points, outlines, whatever it is you want, and it'll help that. So what it's doing is it's going to scrape your website. And if you even want to get more strategic, John, you take competitors' websites and put them in
I
there.
was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, and put them in there, and then you can open up a whole nother world because then it's scraping all that data and giving you basically the keys to like a social media marketing machine, and then all you gotta do is turn the camera on and record, and that's it. So,
Nice. Yeah, that's Very smart. It's amazing what AI can do. I mean, people are focused on lots of different things on AI, but things like that, a lot of times people forget that they can use it to help them with
The
things like that.
tool. But on the other side too, with AI, so that's one way to use it to your advantage.
Hmm.
And so I think it was like the beginning of last year. I'm in a mastermind and it's all active investors. And this is kind of when AI really, so it's like the beginning of 24, no, beginning of 25, when AI was really widely getting used, not by like just your average business owner, like everybody, like grandma was using it in her kitchen and that sort of thing. One of the most powerful things that people don't think about, especially real estate investors, that you really need to be focused on. So obviously we know the world of SEO, and John, you know SEO pretty well, search engine optimization. And now we're in this world where it's AI search, where it's GEO, so generative engine optimization. The reason why content is so powerful and effective now more than ever is because those AI algorithms, they're not making up information out of thin air. Sometimes they do, but for the most part, they're not built to do that. And they'll get better over time, right? But
Right.
if seller goes to Gemini, Google now, so if you actually open up a browser in Google and type in, the first result's going to be Gemini now, and then
Yep.
you have YouTube video, and then you have results. So Gemini, if I say very specifically with keywords, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and I just inherited a house. I want to sell it quick. Who do I sell to? All of those key phrases, keywords, those cues, hit enter. Gemini is going to say, here's the list of house buying companies that can match that. And what it's doing is it's going to take the content from your website and all your organic video content and any content that you put out, scrape that. And if it has enough relevant points to the search, then it's going to show you as a result. So, what I would challenge everybody to do today is open up your favorite AI platform and go mystery shop yourself. Say, whatever market you're in, whatever your service is, I'm X person looking for X service or product. Who should I go to? And if you don't show up, then you can pop back in and say, "Hey, I actually own this company. Why did I not show up?" And then it'll tell you. It'll say, "Well,
That's
there
sweet.
wasn't enough to index. We can't index what's not there. So if you don't have any content, if you don't have a good website,
Hmm.
then we just didn't look for you because you didn't raise your hand and say, I do this for this person." That's why it's powerful now, because
That's
people
great.
are using it effectively that way. Because, and, and one last thing I'll add here and then I'll shut up. The reason why AI is so perfect for the realm of content marketing, which I've already said, is answering questions. AI, so if I went to Google before without AI, I have to go look for the results. So if I type in my motivation and what I do,
Hmm.
it'll give me results, but I have a list of websites that I got to crawl through. I got to look at their Google reviews and stuff like that. I have to make the decision. Now I can go straight to AI and say, just tell me who to call based off my search and based off what you know about me. It'll give you the exact, it'll say, like, call this person. Boom. So
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. I hadn't thought about that in that
it's scary
scenario
for a
with
lot of
grandma,
people too, though.
grandma in the
It's cool,
kitchen.
but it's scary.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, another question for you. So, everybody in our industry loves to talk about KPIs, and there's different levels of KPIs,
Yeah.
obviously. The main one being net, net income, how much you actually making. But aside from that, if somebody is, whether they're spending money for content marketing or they're just bootstrapping it and doing it all by themselves, what would you say the top 2 to 3 true KPIs that they need to be tracking on a weekly or monthly basis are?
Oh, buddy, this is so you know I had this conversation a few times when we're working with you. It all depends. It depends on. I could go back to saying, like, it depends on what your North Star is. So, great example. There's a mastermind that we work with where we publish and produce all their content. One of the biggest real estate masterminds out there, and all they care about, and this is a number we always circle up to, is how many applications came through the door from the content. That's all they care about. They don't care about views, they don't care about subscribers, they don't care about followers, they don't care about likes. It's how many applications came through the door. That's all that matters. We have that metric set, and if that's getting accomplished, then that's getting results for them, because once the application goes through the door, then it's now in their sales process. It's out of our hand,
Right.
but it's our job to push people to that. If you're a house buying company, then your objective would probably be leads through the door from the content. So people either they're giving you a phone call or filling out your landing page on your website. Um, and you can tie your call to action specifically to that. So at the end of every video, you could say, you know, call 219-555 whatever to get a free cash offer on your house. Service providers, it's going to be leads like, and then, you know, you might have the argument that some people come in with like, well, if I want to build a podcast or if I want to build, if I actually legitimately want to build my Instagram following, that's cool. But I always question, okay, what is that going to pay for? Right? Like,
How's it going to monetize?
exactly. You monetize. And let's be real. Like somebody that has 100,000 followers on Instagram, you might look at that and be like, eh, it's kind of a credible person. There's a lot of essence to that. And it's
Yeah.
not everybody looks at it the same way like that, but most people do. So there's a little bit of clout that comes with that kind of number. But as a business owner, your core responsibility from a KPI is to look at what is that North Star? What is that number? Now, it's not to say that views, subscribers, followers doesn't matter. It tells a story, but it's not the end all be all. So that's what I
Yeah, those nice. And I love that because what most people think about are your views, your likes, your shares, and those are important, but those really, for the most part, are vanity metrics. For
yeah,
most people, they're looking at those, oh, I got this man. And I've been there before. I'm not immune to that. But what really it's just like leads.
yeah,
In my business, leads are great. I care about leads, but I really care about are the conversions.
yeah, yeah.
And so kind of
Yeah.
a little bit here. Yep.
Right.
Um,
And one thing real quick too that so this is a actual case study. This is an actual example that I use often. So again, just because you and I met in the real estate space, sorry if you're listening, you're not a house buying company, but this is relevant. This is going to be like a good playing field for everybody. So let's say you buy houses, you put a video out on social media, and it gets 200 views, and um, no, let's start the other way. Let's say you put a video out on social media, it gets 100,000 views. So in theory, it goes viral, it does really well on social, and you get all kinds of comments, all kinds of feedback, and you get leads coming in, but they're all trash leads. You get no deals from it, makes no money. Was it successful? Was it a successful piece of content? From the outside looking in, you're like, yeah, you know, it got us a lot of brand recognition. It got a lot of eyeballs on it. But did it convert? And then on the other side, if you put a video out and it gets 200 views, brought in like 4 leads, 2 of them were highly qualified, 1 closed a deal and it made you $50,000 on a wholesale deal, was it a successful video? Somebody looking in that's a consultant, you know, a marketing consultant might be like, your videos are only getting 200 views. You need to up that. And you're like, yeah, but that video closed me a $50,000 assignment fee.
right.
Those are the type of mentalities that people struggle with in the business. And
Oh,
that's where
certainly.
you really need to get right and focused in on what you're actually working towards.
Certainly. Certainly. Um, Let me look here. I had a couple other questions, but I know we're getting close on times. Um,
You can ask me
oh,
as
this
many
this
questions as you want, John.
But here's a good one. Boring or crazy, exciting, very out of the box. Which generally, and obviously there's caveats to both, and it depends on what your North Star is in your market. But should people generally be going for boring operational stuff, or hey, look at me, I'm all over the place, I have on a pink tutu type stuff? I asked that because I know you love wearing your pink tutu.
I do. I do. I have it on right now. That's why I'm chest up right now. Um, it's the middle of the road. There is essence to like if you're gonna be on social media and you're gonna actually put stuff out and spend the time on it, you do need to have what we would call like hooks. You know, like
Mhm.
there needs to be something that catches and retains attention. Um, some people that I work with that are the best business owners that you'll ever meet have atrocious social media followings because they're actually not super entertaining and interesting to watch. But they could teach all day long. They fill their summits that they perform out, you know, that they put on. But on social media, just because like video wise, like this is not like super entertaining. And then I know people that have also gone bankrupt and they were highly entertaining had cash, in their hands. They're sitting on their Lamborghinis and stuff like that, and they got bankrupt. And that's a real dynamic there. What I always circle back to is who you are. You need to focus in on that with the elements of like, can I get out of a comfort zone a little bit to be a little slightly entertaining? So I wouldn't go one extreme or the other because it's not going to do good for both. The extreme of like super crazy and trying to always grab attention, what I would call an attention whore. We use it for like different,
Fair.
different, kind of like
Fair.
definitions, but on social media, that kind of person, generally speaking, you're going to be attracting the type of demographic that like you usually aren't going to do business with. It's going to be a lot of negative and that sort of thing. There's a buddy of mine that I work with who's in Springfield, Missouri, and he's like the most down to earth human being you'll ever meet. He's not super like he's cool to hang out with. He's very kind of like a backwoods type homegrown guy, and he buys houses, buys like junker houses and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
He'll do video walkthroughs of the houses and just point stuff out. Like, oh, well, we had a squatter in here this morning. He broke in, and that's how he starts the video, and then walks through. And those videos will do extremely like he has one video where it was a squatter that broke in, and he started the video off with, "Well, our house got broken into," and that video did over 3 million views. And
Oh,
he
wow.
just buys houses in Springfield, Missouri. That's it. He doesn't do anything else. That kind of thing is what you need to think about. But even if you watch him on video, it's like he's not highly entertaining. He's not like super flashy. He's wearing his trucker camo hat and that sort of thing. Like he's just a very down to earth person, and he's just walking through showing you what's going on, and that's it. So finding a middle ground is important.
So with that, would it kind of make sense to say be authentic?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. To
You can
me,
tell when
so
somebody's faking it.
yeah, social media content is an extension of who you are. People will say like, "Oh, social media changes people." No, the F does not. It just amplifies who they are already. That's all it does.
Yeah.
If somebody's putting out flashy content, that's because deep inside somewhere, and if not, usually they already are some sort of an a-hole. Like that's like their personality. Usually, is that the type of person you want to be around? You know what I mean? That's the type of stuff that you want to be thinking about. And this is important too because you and I will go into masterminds, and you'll see somebody teaching something on stage, and they're like, "I got to do that same thing." But at the same time, is that in alignment with your North Star? Is that in alignment with what you want to do and who you are? We're in a mastermind together where there'll be people that'll get up on stage and say like,
Mhm.
I will never do organic social media content. It's funnels all day. And then the next person will be like, all I do is organic social media content. And I've never run a single cent on advertising. Like
Yep.
it needs to fit in alignment with you. And does that make sense? So
That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So last question I have: MJ or LeBron?
so okay, I'm the best person to answer this because I'm a Bulls fan, diehard Bulls fan. But my favorite player growing up is LeBron James. Okay, so here's my thing. Here's my take. It's not a conversation of either or, in my opinion. I do like if I had a gun to my head and said you can only pick one, I would LeBron James being my absolute favorite player. I have over 5,000 LeBron James cards, a few autos. Like I'm invested. I would say that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time because of sheer um mentality is what
Mhm.
I kind of boil it down to. He's just a straight winner. Like all he wants to
Yeah.
do is win. I do think that LeBron is a way better ambassador from a standpoint of like he's a family man. He has a legacy. He obviously is all-time scoring champ. I think there's elements to it. So to me, like it's fun for me to answer that because I would say like as a basketball player, like just specifically, I would put it on MJ. But all around, I would say LeBron. But we also have to think like if they ever played one on one, LeBron being a bigger frame, a lot stronger, quicker, but MJ just his mentality, like it would be fun to watch. But that's my answer.
I like it. Fair enough, and I'm with you. I'm an MJ guy. I kind of liken it to Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders. I know it's different, and they played at the same time, so there can be more correlations. But I'm in a unique space because I grew up a Dallas fan,
Yeah.
and you can't see here, but I have autographs from Aikman and
Yeah.
Emmett and Tony Dorsett and stuff. But I'm also an Oklahoma State guy.
Yeah.
Where did Barry Sanders go to college? You have Heisman at. Growing up, I loved Emmett. Emmett was better. Now I'm looking back, I'm like, man, if Barry would have been in Dallas,
Yeah.
it would have been so crazy. But anyways, got way off subject there. I just had to ask.
Well, you know what
Josh.
sucks too? Wait, hold on 1 second. Well, you know what sucks too is, so I was born in 1993. So I missed. I remember watching the '98, like one game of the '98 finals. So I don't remember MJ playing at all. Every bank of information is from what was put out there. So I watched LeBron's very first game in 2004. So I've got to see him this entire time and how he plays. So it's hard to just, like, when you have these old heads come in and like, oh, LeBron, like LaFlop and like stuff like, okay, but like it's a different time. Like, it's a completely different game than what it was before. And that's what's funny. I don't know if you saw it when we get off here and you watch this. Michael, actually, they did an interview with him like 2 or 3 weeks ago, asking who the GOAT is, and his answer was exactly the way that I would frame it too. Basically it was like, well, if it's all about everybody always says like MJ has more championships. Well, if that's the case, then Bill Russell's the greatest of all time because he's got 11. But would Bill Russell keep up in today's game? Like, there's that kind of conversation. So anyway,
I'll look that up. I'll look that up and check it out.
I also missed all the Super Bowls for the Cowboys. I'm a Cowboys fan too, so that sucks. But
yeah, we'll get there someday. I hope.
One day.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Josh, thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it. Anybody who's needing or is interested in using your services, working more with content marketing and having some omnipresence, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you offering that. So a couple ways. Number one is you could shoot me an email, just josh@cullermedia.com. Culler spelled Culler. Or you can just find me on either Facebook or Instagram. I'm the only verified Josh Culler, so just look me up. You'll find me. Shoot me a message. Say, John sent me from the Pete podcast, and we'll have a conversation. So, yeah.
Awesome. Sounds great. If y'all need help, reach out to Josh. He's been doing it a long time. He's done our stuff. He does this. Actually, he does this podcast for us, but does awesome. Thanks again, Josh, and I will see y'all again next week. Thanks.
Thanks, John.